Hello, I'm John King.
And I'm Martha King.
Welcome to Microsoft Flight Simulator, a century of flight.
We're going to share with you the excitement of experiencing through Flight Simulator these first 100 years of powered flight.
With Flight Simulator, you'll fly everything, from the Wright Flyer to the Curtiss Jenny to the Ford Trimotor to the Boeing 777, just to mention a few. In fact, I think I'll start flying right now at the beginning. I'm going to fly the 1903 Wright Flyer.
John is always impatient to go flying right away, but I like to learn a little more first. I think I'll check out the Learning Center. Oh, I see. The Key Topics tab shows pictures of all kinds of content to explore. And the Site Map shows the categories of information in the Learning Center. I can pick a category and read articles about weather, GPS, aircraft specs, air traffic control, and almost everything else I want to know about Flight Simulator. And the index works just like an index in a book. It looks to me like there are 3 different ways in the Learning Center to find the things I want to know about Flight Simulator.
Hey Martha, check this out. I have moved through time. So far, I've recreated the Wright brothers' first flight, and flown the Spirit of St. Louis, a Piper Cub, a Cessna Caravan, and a Beechcraft Baron. And now I'm about to take off in a Boeing 747. You know, this fleet's got everything from tail draggers to helicopters to jets.
Well, John, since you haven't been through the Learning Center, I'll bet there's a lot of things about flying those airplanes that you don't know.
Aha, Martha, I'm learning a bit more than you think because I can get the information I need about the airplane I'm flying right now by bringing up the kneeboard. I can find out key commands, checklists, flight speeds, and just about anything else I need to know while I'm flying the airplane.
But John, there's so much more. You could have gone over to the Century of Flight. You would have found some wonderful articles written by Flying Magazine editor Lane Wallace about all 9 of the historic aircraft. You know, Lane's writing is so good. She makes me feel I'm part of this wonderful history. And Flight Simulator has all kinds of historic flights in these airplanes ready for me to start flying.
But Martha, you aren't going to believe where all I've been in these great airplanes. I've been to Paris, London, the Grand Canyon, and Alaska's Mount Denali. And Las Vegas at night is gorgeous.
That's pretty good, John. Now you only have about 23,000 more airports to go before you've flown into all of them in Flight Simulator. But maybe what you should have been doing is practicing landings or instrument approaches at our own local airport, like so many Flight Simulator pilots do. You could use some practice, you know. Perhaps you should check out the flying lessons with Rod Machado. They cover everything, from your first takeoffs and landings through steep turns and instrument approaches to flying a Boeing jet.
Well, I might try that in a minute, Martha, but right now I'm busy fighting this turbulence. I just don't know where it came from.
John, your turbulence is coming from the weather. If you'd spent some time in the Learning Center like I did, you'd know that you can download real-world weather or choose weather themes like thunderstorms or low overcasts. Of course, if you don't like the weather you've got, you can always change it to the weather you want. That's even better than real life. And now the weather in Flight Simulator is dynamic. On a cross-country flight, the clouds, wind, and precipitation are constantly changing, just like when we fly our Cessna Skyhawk.
Well, since you know so much, I am still looking for a way to turn on air traffic control. Any words of wisdom on that?
Of course. Just press the accent key or this icon.
Las Vegas airport information is on.
Hey, Martha, what's this multiplayer thing?
Well, John, that lets 2 pilots who can get along with each other fly together.
Martha, I could get along with you.
Let's go flying together. I'll fire up the Spirit of St. Louis. Why don't you fire up the Ford Trimotor?
Well, folks, have fun in your flying.
This is as real as it gets.
Well, hello. I'm John King.
And I'm Martha King.
Welcome to the exciting world of flying, brought to you by Microsoft Flight Simulator.
You'll use the same skills we've been teaching pilots throughout the world. In fact, many pilots use Microsoft Flight Simulator to help with their training and to keep proficient.
And even more people use Microsoft Flight Simulator just to have fun flying. Today we're going to start that fun by getting you ready for your first virtual flight in a brand new Cessna 172 SP.
So join us as we share some cool tips that will help you have lots of fun with Flight Simulator. Just click on the next button in the lower right side of this screen.
You know, I am all fixed up with a great joystick. It's a Microsoft Sidewinder Force Feedback Pro 2. I love flying with a joystick because it makes the controls of Flight Simulator operate like an airplane's controls. And it really makes flying Flight Simulator a lot of fun.
By the way, not all joysticks are identical, but they all operate about the same way. Notice how when John wants to increase the power, he pushes the lever on the joystick forward, and to decrease the power, he pulls back on the lever. Now, the throttle on your joystick may operate differently, or you may not even have one at all. In that case, you can press the F2 and F3 keys to control the throttle. And it kind of makes sense that the bigger number increases power and the smaller number decreases power.
Now, I'm using the position of the joystick to tilt or bank the wings. For instance, when I move the joystick to the right, it makes the wings bank to the right.
And when John has the bank angle he wants, he can just move the stick back to the center position. And the airplane will stay in a bank. Notice, anytime the wings are not level, the airplane will turn. When John wants to level the wings, he moves the stick to the left, and he centers it again when the wings are level. Since the wings are level, the airplane will stop turning. You also use the stick to make the nose go up or down. Ease back on the stick, and the nose will go up. And if you're going fast enough, the airplane will climb. Ease the stick forward, and the nose will go down, and the airplane will descend.
It always surprises people to learn that the secret of flying either an airplane or a flight simulator well is to make little teeny tiny movements of the controls. In fact, if you see the stick move very much at all, you're probably moving it too much. On the other hand, one of the really fun things about Flight Simulator is if you want to move the stick a lot, you can make the airplane do some pretty interesting things.
As you can see, to fly realistically, you want to make very small movements of the controls. Now, take a look at the key commands on the screen below. Then click on the next button to learn a neat secret about using the flight instruments to control your airplane.
You know, to get the most fun from Flight Simulator, you'll want a joystick, but you can still have lots of fun flying with the keyboard controls.
First of all, to control the throttle, you press the F2 and F3 keys. Notice how when John wants to increase the power, he presses the F3 key. And to decrease the power, he presses the F2 key. It kind of makes sense that the bigger number increases power and the smaller number decreases power. And if you don't have a joystick, the numeric keypad gives you another way to control the airplane itself. Before you use the keypad, make sure numlock is off. Now, to use the keypad, just imagine an airplane on top of the keypad. and think of tapping on the part of the airplane you want to move down.
For instance, I want to push the right wing down for a turn to the right, so I'll tap on the 6 key.
When John has tilted the wings to the bank angle he wants, he presses the 5 key to center the controls, and the airplane will stay in a bank. Notice, anytime the wings are not level, the airplane will turn. To bring the left wing down, John taps on the 4 key. When the wings are level, the turn stops, and John presses the 5 key to center the controls. Tap on the 8 key and the nose will go down, and the airplane will descend. Tap on the 2 key and the tail will go down, and the airplane will climb.
The trick to controlling the airplane with the number pad is to not hold the keys down for very long. You know, the longer you hold a key down, the more the airplane will move. Now, on the other hand, one of the fun things about Flight Simulator is you don't have to hold the keys down for very long to make the airplane do some pretty exciting things.
As you can see, to fly realistically, small control inputs are the name of the game. Now, take a look at the key commands on the screen below. Then click on the Next button to learn a neat secret about using the flight instruments to control your airplane. There are lots of instruments to look at on the panel, but just 6 of them are known as the primary instruments. Even though they don't always look exactly the same, you'll find these 6 instruments in almost every airplane.
Now, we're going to let you in on a little secret. You only have to look at 2 of these instruments to get most of the information you need to have basic control of the airplane. Now, the first of these 2 instruments is officially called the attitude indicator, but old-timers call it the artificial horizon. It's an instrument that gives you the information you'd get by looking at the actual horizon outside the window, and it gives you that information even when you can't see outside due to weather or darkness.
While John is flying the plane, the white horizon bar stays parallel to the natural horizon, and the little orange airplane moves with the real airplane, showing him whether the nose is up or down, or if the airplane is in a bank. To keep the airplane at the same altitude, all John has to do is put this dot, representing the nose of the airplane, right on the horizon bar. To keep the wings level, he'll keep the little orange airplane level with the horizon bar. Now, if you want to make a nice gentle turn, say to the right, keep the nose dot right on the horizon bar and roll until the right wing on the little orange airplane covers up the first bank reference line. To climb straight ahead, just go to full power and then use the attitude indicator to keep the wings level and pitch up to put the dot on the little orange airplane on the second tick mark above the horizon bar. That'll give you a great climb attitude.
Now, here is something that may surprise you. To descend, you just keep that level flight attitude and reduce the power to the bottom of the green arc on the tachometer. That way, the airplane will make a nice controlled descent. Now, you can increase your descent rate by holding this same attitude and putting down flaps by pressing the F7 key. Flaps come down at the back of the wings to increase lift and drag, and you can learn more about flaps by clicking on Flying Lessons. One last thing, by the way, about using the attitude indicator. You'll get the best results if you make very small corrections. If you get a little high or low, you can correct by pitching up or down just about the height of the little dot or less.
The second of the 2 most useful instruments is the airspeed indicator. The airspeed indicator tells you how fast the airplane is moving through the air. The needle points to the speed, which is measured in knots. As a good rule of thumb, you want to keep your airspeed in the green part of the indicator.
Now, anytime the airspeed starts to get too high or low, you can just return the airplane to level flight attitude using the attitude indicator and putting the power in the center of the green arc on the tachometer. Do that and the airspeed will come back into control very nicely. You know, as you can see, together, these two instruments tell you most of what you need to know to do a pretty doggone good job of controlling the airplane.
But the other 4 primary flight instruments are important too, and you can learn more about them in flying lessons. Meanwhile, it's time to meet your instructor. So click the next button on the lower right side of this screen.
All right, it's time for you to take off on your first flight in Flight Simulator. And you're going to have a great time, too. So let's meet your flight instructor, who will ride along with you today.
Taking you on this flight is Rod Machado. Rod holds an airline transport pilot certificate and all fixed-wing flight instructor ratings. He's an accomplished pilot, a truly fun guy, and a fantastic instructor.
Thank you, John and Martha. Over the years, I've taught many people to fly and have fun learning. It will be no different in Flight Simulator. Let me tell you about what we'll do on this short introductory flight. First, we'll take off from right here at Montgomery Field in San Diego, California. I'll talk you through the takeoff where you'll accelerate down the runway, raise the nose to takeoff, and establish a stable climb. After we climb to a safe altitude, we'll level off and practice a few turns, climbs, and descents. Then I'll help you get the airplane pointed back toward Montgomery Field, and I'll help you land the airplane. That's right, I said land the airplane. How will we do that? It's simple. As we get close to the airport, I'll help fly the approach and give you instructions to lower the flaps and configure the airplane for landing. Just as we get above the runway, you'll pull the throttle back and flare for landing by raising the nose of the aircraft just before touching down on the runway. Now, all that might seem a little much for this first flight, but trust me, we'll have a good flight. So buckle up, adjust that seat, and let's go flying.
And because this is Flight Simulator, you can exit the flight at any time by pressing Escape. You can also take this flight again as many times as you like.
And oh, one last thing. Rod has an entire course about flying for you right here in Flight Simulator. So be sure to explore the lessons when you're done flying.
Are you ready to go flying? Then click the Fly Now button on the lower right side of this screen. We're almost ready to depart from runway 10 left at Montgomery Field in San Diego, California. Now, I've completed the takeoff checklist for you. I would like you to do the takeoff and climb, but don't worry. There's nothing you can do on this flight that will hurt you, me, the airplane, or your computer. So remove those hands from your eyes and let's have a good time. Let's review the takeoff procedure. As you apply full power, the airplane will accelerate. When the airspeed indicator reads 55 knots, apply gentle rearward pressure on the joystick and pitch the nose up just high enough to cover the distant horizon with the very top part of the instrument panel. The airplane will accelerate to our final climb speed of 75 knots. Now when it does, pitch up a little more to maintain 75 knots. Move the joystick forward or rearward slightly to maintain this climb speed. Now I want you to release the brakes by pressing the period key, then apply full power by pushing the throttle all the way forward or pressing the F4 key. Divide your attention between the airspeed indicator and the runway as the airplane accelerates. We're looking for 55 knots. There's 45 knots. Okay, there's 55 knots. So pull back a little on the joystick to pitch up slightly and start climbing. Hold that miniature orange airplane and its little orange nose dot on the attitude indicator between the second and third black lines that are located above the thin white horizon line. This should keep the airspeed close to 75 knots during our climb. We're climbing straight ahead, so move the stick left or right as needed only if the airplane starts to turn. You can tell we're climbing because the big hand on the altimeter is rotating clockwise. I want you to keep climbing until the altimeter reads 1,500 feet, then I'll take over. "75 knots is our best climb speed in this airplane, but we're not going to be too picky about it. Change the pitch up and down a teeny bit to keep the airspeed somewhere between 70 and 80. Great job. I'll take the airplane for a bit and you can relax that death grip you have on the joystick. As soon as we get close to our pattern altitude of 2,000 feet, I'll demonstrate some turns and let you try some. Okay, Captain, if you look on the lower right-hand corner of the instrument panel, you'll see the tachometer. Reduce the power by pulling the throttle back to about 2,200 RPM. Look at the attitude indicator, especially the orange pointer at the top. Notice that right now it's pointing at the arrow at the top. This means we're wings level. The orange pointer points at our current bank angle. The white lines around the outside of the indicator are bank reference marks, 10, 20, 30, and 60 degrees. Under most circumstances, you won't have to exceed 20 degrees of bank. I'm going to make a right turn now. I'm applying gentle pressure to move the stick a little bit to the right, then returning it to almost center when I have 20 degrees of bank. When I'm almost at the heading I want, I roll the wings level by moving the stick gently to the left and holding it there until the little orange pointer lines up with the white arrow. Okay, I want you to make a right turn now. I'll handle the pitch so that you can concentrate on the bank. Move the stick slightly to the right and hold it there until the bank angle reaches 20 degrees. Then return the stick about halfway to center. Roll the wings level now by moving the stick to the left and holding it there until the wings are level. Fantastic. You must be related to that Neil Armstrong guy. Let's try a turn to the left now. I'll go first. Let's take a look at the lower part of the attitude indicator, the brown part. Notice the white lines that converge at the center of the horizon line. Those lines are angled at 20 and 45 degrees to give us another reference to our bank angle. Tag, you're it. I want you to make a left turn now. Roll the airplane left to a 20-degree bank. I've still got the pitch. As we're making the turn, make tiny adjustments to the joystick left and right to maintain no more than 20 degrees of bank. Okay, not bad. Roll the wings level now. All right, I have the airplane. We're having a great time now. I'm going to see if I can find the airport again, and we're going to do the most fun part of all, the landing. I'm going to start getting set up for the approach now. I know it seems like we're a long way from the airport, but there's an old saying in aviation, a good landing starts with a good approach. It's time to set our flaps to the first notch now. So, hit the F7 key and pull the power back to just about 1900 RPM. We want to slow down to about 85 knots or so. We're 5 miles from landing. This is where it all comes together. You are going to fly the approach and landing. You'll control the altitude with the throttle and the airspeed with the pitch. You'll also control the heading so that we land on the runway. Set the flaps to 20 degrees now by hitting F7 again and slowing the airplane to 75 knots. We're 4 miles from the runway. Set flaps to the landing position by hitting F7 one more time. Verify the throttle is at about 1900 RPM. The runway is right where we left it. We're 3 miles from landing now. We're doing fine so far. Let's do the before landing checklist, left to right. Mags are both, fuel is both, mixture is full rich, flaps are selected, 30, indicating 30. We're cleared to land on runway 28 right. Before landing checklist is complete, Captain. This is it, your airplane. Maintain 65 knots using the pitch and maintain a nice gentle descent using the throttle. We're concentrating right now on making real small changes, if any. We want to keep everything nice and smooth. We're 2 miles from touchdown now. When we get to about 10 feet off the ground, I'll help you figure out where that is. But when we do get to about 10 feet off the ground, I'm going to need you to pull the power to idle and gently pull the nose up so the main landing gear touches down before the nose does. We're 1 mile from touchdown. We're 500 feet above the field. You're too low. Increase power. Half a mile from touchdown. In case you're wondering, those white arrows are telling us where to land. We're 100 feet above the runway. All right, throttle all the way to idle and raise the nose just enough so the main landing gear touches down first. Make sure the throttle is all the way to idle now. Stop the airplane by holding down the period key or pressing the trigger on your joystick. Don't look now, but you've just accomplished your first takeoff, a set of turns, and your first landing. I think you're ready to sign up for lessons. Let's go inside and grab a cold soda and get you signed up. Meanwhile, you can take a look at the flight analysis to see what we've done.